Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name's Joey Weaver. He's Mike McDaniel. Mike, week 14 in the books, rivalry week. How are you doing? You ready to talk about some games?
My team won their rivalry game, so I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I'm not sure what that feels like, but I bet it feels good.
Oh, Joey. I said several prayers for you over the weekend, because I'll tell you what, if
not enough, clearly. Keep going.
I'll tell you what, if my team was involved in an 8 overtime game against a college football playoff team that has as much talent as any to win a national title and lost that way, in that fashion, in a game that took that long, look, full disclosure, there's a reason why we are recording this on Sunday night, not Saturday night, and 24 hours is not enough for Joey.
Yeah.
24 hours is not enough.
No, it was not. Yeah, we got a lot to get into, Mike, here. And that, obviously, Georgia Tech's loss to Georgia is a healthy component of that. Anything that we need to, by the way, we're live, youtube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. We got a lot of people here in the chat with us already. It is going to be an exciting night. It seems like it is Sunday, December the 1st, a couple minutes before 11:30 on the East Coast. Again, good crowd joining us. Appreciate your patience. Yeah, we were planning on recording last night, but I think everyone involved was exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, some combination of the three. So here we are. It is myself and Mike tonight. Scott not able to join us. He is still recovering after a long drive back from New Hampshire.
Yep.
I don't really know the Northeast, Mike, but I'm pretty sure New Hampshire, a long drive from Virginia. Is that a fair assessment?
That would be correct.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. This is a geography podcast after all, so I'm glad I made sure that we covered that ground.
Yep.
Mike, anything you need to hit on here before we jump into the rapid recap of the weekend?
No, but I believe I am in charge of the time and or the timestamps. I'm pulling up the timestamps right now. We'll get that going here shortly. Yeah, I remembered. What week was this anyway? Week 14, right? 14. All right.
Yeah, normal college football season has 14 weeks of the regular season.
Yeah.
Not including week 0, which made it 15.
I was going to say with a couple bye weeks built in there as well for all the teams. There we go. And this is a good podcast. I'm just going here and going to hit the lead here. Scott will be really happy I did this, so I'm just going to go ahead and we've been keeping you all on long enough, so what's another 30 seconds? That's what my wife always says. Okay, here we go. Beautiful.
We ready? We good? 10 minutes on the clock?
10 minutes on the clock. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part.
Ducky timer?
And
Caleb Fields. Just give Joey all 10 minutes to talk about Tech, and then we're done talking any more about it. That's honestly not the worst idea I've seen so far. So,
yep.
I mean...
Yep. It's not. And he's going to need at least 10 minutes, which is not something you can usually say. Okay.
Friggin' therapy session. I don't charge enough for this.
Yep. All right, beautiful. Let's get this going in 3, 2, 1. Joey, I am so sorry to report Georgia, number 7 Georgia, 44. Georgia Tech 42 in 8 overtimes, which includes 6 of those things where we basically just do a 2-point conversion shootout, which is, by the way, the dumbest thing in college football.
2-point palooza is as dumb as it could possibly be. I don't even know where to start with this game. I have an idea of where to start with this game. Let's start here. Go ahead, Mike.
There it is. Yeah, you take a shot of that. That's what was that, bullet? Yeah, bullet there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. One hitter, a bullet. Let me tell you my thoughts on this, because I missed the first half live because I was putting my kid to bed.
Than warm, by the way.
Yeah, I missed the first half live because I was putting my son to bed. I was catching up. I saw the score. It was 17-0 with a minute to go in the first half, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And so I did I was able to catch up. Obviously, shout out YouTube TV. Feel free to sponsor us. I was able to catch up, and it should have been worse. Like, Georgia should have been down by more at halftime. Georgia played their worst half of the season. I thought they were awful. Georgia Tech played very well. Haynes King being healthy with the little okey-doke. Shout out Will Secor, who was calling that for weeks. if I had known that Haynes King was going to be pretty close to what appeared to be fully healthy, and I know he's still banged up, but healthy enough to throw the ball, I would have taken Georgia Tech plus the 19.5. I feel like I got jobbed on that a little bit. But my takeaway here is that Georgia Tech was game. Georgia's offense has a little bit of Miami in them, in that when they get the thing rolling, they can score in a hurry, and that's what happened in the second half. They scored very quickly in a hurry. They kind of did what they did to Alabama. They got themselves back into the game quickly. I thought Georgia Tech did a very good job running the football in this game. I'm not really sure why they stopped doing that in overtime. That was pretty frustrating to watch. That's my macro takeaway. Another macro takeaway is that there are very few coaches in college football that I would take as an underdog in a big game over Brent Key, especially if we're just trying to cover spreads. So keep that in mind moving forward. He had his boys ready to go. This was a heartbreaker for the Jackets. Georgia, I understand they're like second best odds to win the national title on FanDuel. No, thank you. no, thanks. I'm good. Defense, not great. Offense takes too long to get started, and I don't trust Carson Beck. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
I have lots of thoughts that we will explore throughout this podcast.
Good.
I don't mean to tease you with that, but yeah, we were 3 minutes into a rapid recap. We got every other game to go through. So, Georgia 44, Georgia Tech 42, San Jose State 34, Stanford 31. Speaking of kind of gutting losses here, Stanford. Yikes. Stanford with a bad turnover, a little over 2 minutes left in this game. San Jose State goes in and scores with, what was it, a minute and 55 left?
Yep.
That is tough to swallow for Stanford.
Yep, and they didn't cover Nick Nash, who was one of the best receivers in college football. He had 8 receptions for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. You're going to want to cover that guy, and they effectively didn't do it. So, really tough for Stanford. They finished the year 3-9. Could have been better, but we knew going into the year they weren't going to be that good. Yeah. Syracuse 42, number 6 Miami 38.
I texted the group chat. This seems like the kind of loss that's going to make Cam not like college football anymore and or choose a different team to root for. How Miami gets Heisman level quarterback play once, like for once, they have solved the puzzle and they still lose 2 games in some game management disaster classes from your boy Mario Cristobal.
We'll get into that. Cam texted our group chat with you, myself, and Scott, said mother effer, and Scott responded, have fun in the Camping World Bowl. So that's where we're at. A little peek behind the curtain. Number 9 SMU 38, Cal 6. I mean, SMU, it's really just SMU's a lot better than Cal, right? And
at least on this day they were. I mean, if you play this game 10 times, Cal might win 9, but SMU won this one, Mike. Shout out to Rangers King 669 in the comments.
I was going to say, yeah, that's an ode to him. Number 15, South Carolina 17. Number 12, Clemson 14. Lenora Sellers, incredible touchdown run late here. And then Clemson got themselves deep into South Carolina territory, and a really bad Cade Klubnik interception sealed the deal. The Tigers, though, as they found out later in the day, still have an opportunity with 3 losses to make the college football playoff because, thank you, Miami.
Yeah, no kidding. I picked South Carolina to win this game. This game script, not what I had in mind, but South Carolina got it done somehow.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. This was down by down. Clemson was ready to rock here. This was
they were the better team for 3+ quarters here, and just they needed one more stop and they couldn't get it.
Yep. Sometimes that's the way it goes. Louisville 41, Kentucky 14. We were wrong.
Hello.
We were wrong. Incorrect.
Yeah.
Bad picks on our part.
Couldn't be happier to be wrong about that one. We'll get into this in a little bit, but couple of recent year demons being exercised for Louisville sports fans in the last few weeks. So this one sure seemed like it felt really, really good for Louisville fans everywhere.
Rangers King 669. Oh, I really, really can't wait to shut y'all up this week. Thanks for joining us live. Usually we see you hide in the comments and not join us live on the podcast.
Please hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, please subscribe. Duke 23, Wake Forest 17. That's a cover for the pick of the week.
Just like they drew it up, Mike.
All it takes is a Hail Mary
Textbook.
sometimes. All it takes is a Hail Mary. We have 3.5 minutes and 3 games remaining. Boston College 34, Pittsburgh 23.
Yikes, Pittsburgh.
Hey, Pitt finished the drill. They lost 5 straight.
They finished the wrong drill. Yeah. Boston College arrow up?
Sometimes all it takes is getting rid of your 5'9" quarterback, and Virginia Tech's gonna add a 5'9" quarterback. It looks like, so we'll get into that later. NC State 35,
yeah.
NC State 35, North Carolina 30. NC State scores late. North Carolina, Mac Brown's done coaching. He's not coaching the bowl game, and this is a tough way to go out on your home field against your rival.
And yet, kind of appropriate.
Yeah. I would say kind of appropriate. Speaking of appropriate, Florida 31, Florida State 11. Yeah.
That's all you got to know. I don't got anything. I mean, I will say I was pissed because Florida State scores a touchdown with a little under 3 minutes to go here, I think. A little over 3 minutes ago. They go for 2 and they get it. And now my Florida Florida minus 13.5 lock is in jeopardy. And then Florida goes 5 plays, 51 yards, touchdown to to put that back in place. So
yeah,
shout out to the Gators. Appreciate that.
Yep, shout out to the Gators for sure. And the final game in the night slate. Oh man, little knuckle crack. Virginia Tech 37, Virginia 17, game that was never competitive. That's 19 out of 20 and 23 out of 25. Death, taxes, Commonwealth Cup in Blacksburg.
We need to have very serious conversations about what we're doing in Charlottesville, because for a team that was 1 win away from making a bowl game, the vibes are awful. And this is just not the way you want to go into the offseason. Yeah, Devin Hamilton, fire everybody. On the
Feels
table.
Good. Feels good. We did that. We spent 3 minutes on Georgia, and we have 1 minute and 12 seconds to spare, Joey. That is the Rhoback Rapid Recap.
That's right.
Brought to you, of course, Joey, by Rhoback. Oh, there it is.
There it is, yeah.
Use promo code GOACC20 at checkout, 20% off your first order at Rhoback.com. We can't say enough good things about them. Very comfortable apparel that you and I and Scott all wear on the golf course, at church, at work, everyday leisure, you name it. Rhoback, incredibly comfortable. Polos, sweatshirts, pullovers, you name it, they got it. Use promo code GOACC20 at checkout, 20% off your first order at Rhoback.com. Their polos, their stuff, it's not cheap. That's because it's made well, extremely comfortable, performance wear, worth the price of admission. Shout out Rhoback.
When I'm trying to look like an adult, when I take my kid to like a birthday party or something like that, and I don't want to wear like a t-shirt and gym shorts, I'm always going for the Rhoback polos, Mike. And they look great, and they're fantastic, every one of them.
Yep, they are.
Highly recommended. You're getting into the holiday season. Go get you a Rhoback polo. Go get someone for someone in your life. We'd appreciate that. Use promo code GOACC20, 20% off your first order.
Oh, I would say where to start, but we know where we're starting. Right here. Number
Going
7,
for a
Georgia.
therapy session here. Yeah.
Number 7, Georgia, 44. Georgia Tech, 42. Joey, I am so sorry.
I appreciate that. Hang on. Let me, real quick. Add one little thing to the banner here. In 8 overtimes, Mike. Let's see. So, yeah, Georgia Tech comes out, good game plan. They're up 17-0 at halftime after Georgia misses a field goal. Georgia's offense could not do a whole lot of anything in the first half. I think they had one drive that kind of got them down into field goal range, maybe at the edge of the red zone. They went for it on 4th down, didn't get it because Tech's defense stood up to them. Tech had corners going down like flies all night. I think Kelly Quinlan mentioned that Warren Burrell, who's normally one of the starting corners, but he was kind of an emergency corner in this game because of injuries and such. He ends up playing most of the game because I think Tech lost 2 corners, and it was just, again, it was guys going out. None of them looked like the fake trying to slow down the opposing offense injuries. It was guys that took a while to get up, and just so it's a little bit of a battle of attrition. Georgia Tech, I think the lack of depth kind of showed at times during this game where you just needed more bodies that were capable of playing like those frontline bodies. Haynes King, unbelievable, Mike. So first of all, clearly found some ridiculous magical remedy for that shoulder.
Drug test his ass.
On Tuesday or Wednesday, Haynes King, might have failed to qualify for the Belmont, but was able to run in this game, and all of a sudden, throwing the ball down the field, played the entire damn game for Georgia Tech. Had over 300 yards passing, over 100 yards on the ground. I think had 3 touchdowns. Unbelievable performance. If they had won this game, it took everything I had to prevent, to keep from tweeting something out about Haynes King's number 10 hanging in the rafters in Bobby Dodd Stadium, just for the way that he's played the last 2 years. And then to go in and potentially win this game would have been unbelievable. And there was officiating nonsense. And I swear, I've told everybody I've talked to after this, I really, really, really try not to be officials screwed us guy. And I don't approach it that way. But it sure tells me something, Mike, when I go to a lot of different corners of the internet and I find a lot of different fans of other teams that are not involved in this one way or the other saying this game was stolen from Georgia Tech by the officials. And it's not just one call, it's not just 2 calls, it's like a half dozen different calls, no calls, things that happened during the game where it's like every single one of them sure seemed to go Georgia's way. And that sucks. And ultimately, I'm at the place in my life where I have decided and or kind of, just gotten to the place where it's not worth being angry about. But there was definitely this like sad, like empty feeling. Like I think my wife, after she watched the game with me, watched it end, pretty quickly went to bed. I think she could tell that
she is a saint.
Oh, you have no idea. I think she pretty quickly could tell, like, whatever conversation she was trying to have with me, I was somewhere else. And she was right. And I don't know, man. This is a really, really tough one to stomach and to live through. And I think I ended up somehow sleeping okay. I think I was trained by watching the Falcons lose the Super Bowl because it couldn't be worse than that. But this is a top 5, like, individual game loss of my fandom in my life. And I mean, you had them, and it sucks to lose this game that way. I mean, the pass interference in the end zone that was tipped, the non-targeting on Haynes King, just a lot of different moments that could have gone slightly differently and didn't. Haynes King loses that fumble. I think that was the first fumble that he's lost as like a true ball carrier all year, right? Like he's probably lost a fumbled exchange, a snap that kind of went errantly, whatever. But like just Haynes running the ball down the field, I don't think he's lost a fumble all year, but he lost that one.
Yeah,
and
it was tough.
So it's hard. And we can talk a little bit about the trajectory of the program, but I'm curious. I mean, you were watching this thing. You said that especially starting the second half, you were watching this kind of the whole way. What was your takeaway here?
Yeah, I saw every snap, but I watched the second half and obviously the 8 overtimes live. I think at a macro level, you got to be feeling pretty good, right? I think that's the overall takeaway. Really tough.
Direction
to lose
of the program
this game.
is positive.
Yeah, really tough to lose this game. I think the net result, truthfully, is about the same, though. Like, yeah, would it be great to have the feather in your cap that you beat your rival and effectively Georgia was playing in the SEC championship this weekend, no matter what, but effectively like really putting their college football playoff hopes on like life support. Like they have to be winning in the SEC title game. Like you feel pretty good. Ultimately, the difference between beating Georgia, right, and losing to them in 8 overtimes when they're a top 10 team that is a college football playoff contender, like title contender.
On the road.
On the road. Ultimately, to me, and I am not in the trenches with Georgia Tech fans. I mean, I'm in the trenches with you, Joey, as a podcast partner and a friend. We've been at this a while now. I am from that standpoint, but I am not a Georgia Tech fan or alum and really don't, outside of like your happiness, I really don't care one way or another, right?
Sure, yeah.
I think the overall result is the same. You proved you can play with this team.
Again.
Like 2 years in a row, you've proven you can play with that team. The end result to me is the same here. And I know it sucks and it's hard and you lose that game and it's awful. But what is the difference between Georgia Tech winning this game and not, especially when it's in 8 overtimes against a top 10 team on the road that's contending for a national title with their talent? Whether or not they are good enough to win a title is another conversation. I don't think they are this year. But they have the talent, obviously, if they put the pieces together and play 4 quarters like they did, or play an entire 4 quarters like they did, like the second half against Alabama or in the second half of this game. Like, can they get there? Yeah. Like, they got enough talent, of course. Mm-hmm. The end result to me is the same. I think if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you're really happy with how this looks. At the end of the day, I don't think a loss really is like that backbreaking. Okay, great. Georgia Tech would have gone 8-4 with a win against Georgia. That would have been awesome for Brent Key and the program. But losing that game by 2 in 8 overtimes, you proved the same point. Brent Key can coach this team up in big games. The bigger issue for Georgia Tech moving forward with Brent Key is, can you win the ones that aren't against top 10 opponents on the road?
Sure. Yeah.
That's been the conversation the entire time with Brent Key since he's taken over. It's stop losing to Bowling Green, stop losing to a bad ACC team at home, stop losing those types of games. We know you can play and contend in these games. Now go and beat the 4-4 ACC team at home in October, or early November. Like, beat that team now consistently. Then you got something going on. He's recruiting well, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Haynes King is an absolute player. Mm-hmm. Like, this is, I think, just an entire net positive for Georgia Tech. Net positive. In the game itself, the officiating. I texted you this, and a lot of commenters are going to disagree. I thought by and large the and a lot of people online would disagree. I think by and large the officiating was okay. Like,
I texted you back that I agreed. I thought on 90% of the plays, I thought it was fine. What they weren't calling, whatever. I thought it was all fine.
I thought the pass interference in the end zone, especially looking back at the replay, that ball was tipped.
Yes. And even if it wasn't, that's exactly what I was going to say. Even if it wasn't, that was a bad call, in my opinion. That was a bad call. And that was truthfully probably the one that was most consequential, right? So I'm in agreement with Georgia Tech fans there. They got a gripe, a legitimate gripe. That was a 4th down. Like, Georgia's turning the ball over on downs if that flag is not thrown, right?
Yeah.
Like that. It's that simple. And you were up against it with the clock and everything else at that point. Yeah, that is a huge game-changing decision to throw that flag and uphold it and not review it and so on and so forth.
The second one that NDAS 133 brings up, and I tried to click on it, but it didn't work. Here it goes. The missed hold of Romello Height was also a bad miss. That was deep in Georgia Tech territory. Ridiculous. Look,
in front of God and everyone. Like,
you can call holding on every play, but that was egregious. I mean, that should have been called.
Yeah.
Now, those are the two, in my opinion, that were real bad, right? The one that was called and the one that wasn't. Where I break is on these, like, the targeting on Haynes King as a runner. Like, guys, how often, and I understand this stinks for Georgia Tech fans, but guys, how often are we calling targeting on a running play. I mean, seriously, right? Like, how often we calling that in college football? We are never calling that, right? We call it on defenseless receivers, and we call it on a quarterback as a passer when a defensive lineman or pass rusher launches himself into a quarterback who's dropping back to pass. We never call that on a runner, ever. I mean, it's very few times in a college football season out of hundreds and hundreds of games that are played. It's just never called. So I'm not surprised. Did it look like targeting? Yeah. Are they going to call it? No. They never call that. So I'm fine with that, letting that play.
Yeah.
I think where Georgia Tech lost this game is two areas, and one I think is like within their control at a macro level, but like on Saturday night is like really just tough to swallow. It's bad luck. You have all the injuries in the secondary. And Georgia Tech, I think when they had a lot of success in the first half, they were able to rush the passer, get after Carson Beck. And they weren't able to be as aggressive in the second half. And I texted you this. I was like, I got to go back and watch this from a pressure standpoint. So I did. I went back and took a look at it yesterday. It looked like Georgia Tech was a lot more tentative with their pass rush in the second half because they had so many injuries in the secondary.
You're playing cautiously on the back end, yeah.
You have so many young guys in there, you're rotating in, and guys that are really, really green, wet behind the ears, that all of a sudden you are throwing them into gigantic situations where they are on an island against 4- and 5-star receivers. And it's like, are we really going to leave them one-on-one and like really go after the passer? Now, I get it, right? Like maybe there are some calls on defense you'd like to have back. Like maybe you'd like to get after the passer a little bit more. But I think where Georgia Tech lost this game is they weren't able to get pressure on Georgia in the second half. And when Carson Beck has time to throw, he can deliver the football. Mm-hmm. When he's under pressure, that's when he starts throwing it to the wrong team. Yeah. And Georgia Tech was not able to get after him in the second half like they wanted to. I think part of that was in their control, right, in terms of, okay, just go after the passer a little bit more. But I understand why they didn't because of their injuries, which is at a macro level, yeah, just recruit more depth. But I mean, realistically, yeah, on Saturday night or Friday night, that's tough to do in game, right? So that's the first area. Second area where I think they lost this game was late, particularly in overtime, where we got into the 2-point shootout portion, and Georgia Tech and Buster Faulkner, who Scott said in our group chat was in his bag, and he called a great game, I think, overall for 4 quarters on Friday night. I think he would like to have some of those play calls back down by the goal line in overtime, right? Georgia Tech is really, really good at running the football, especially when Haynes King is healthy, like he was. Healthy enough, obviously. Very good game. And Jamal Haynes, who I know was banged up in this game, but when he carried, it was really good. And they forgot to do what they do best in overtime. Their best stuff is in the run game all the time. Their best stuff is in the run game. I know Georgia's got issues in their secondary. I know that they can be had there. But Georgia's best stuff is in the run game offensively. That is where they make their most hay. That's where they're making their most hay all year when everybody's been healthy. It's in the run game. And they were running the ball really, really well on Friday night, and they went totally away from it in overtime. And I get it. A lot of bodies down by the goal line. Georgia's got multiple NFL defensive linemen. Michael Williams is an all-American defensive lineman. I get it. They're really, really good. But I would have loved to have run the football a little bit more. And Will Secor brings this up. If you give it to Singleton, and you texted me this, if you give it to Singleton and on the run play in the 7th overtime, it is a walk-in score.
And they have struggled with that particular read on that particular play all year. I mean, that is not the first, second, or third time they've run that play, and King keeps it, and it's like if you would have given it, it's a first down, it's a touchdown, it's whatever. And,
big gain, yeah.
Yet again,
yeah. So that's really all I had. I think macro level, obviously arrow pointing up for Georgia Tech, and I think really, as much as it sucks to lose this game, I think the end result, in my opinion, as an outsider, is the same. I think you got to be feeling really good if you're a Georgia Tech fan. The fact you took that team to 8 overtimes in Athens, I think you made your point. Even though you lost the game, you made your point. I mean, really, for this season, it's a great feather in your cap to win. You'd obviously rather win than lose a rivalry game against that team, that program, where they're at on the national level. Like, you'd rather win that game than lose it, especially when you come that close. But, like, difference between 8-4 and 7-5, I think, is pretty minimal in terms of how you played this game overall and what it took for that team to beat you. And there was no shortage of respect for Georgia Tech's program coming from the Georgia side after the game. I mean, Kirby and Carson Beck, and they were all talking about how good of a team Georgia Tech is and how difficult they were to prepare for and how well they're coached, and Kirby talking about Brent Key and what a coach he is. I mean, there is no shortage from a player and coaching. I know the fan bases hate each other, and the players, it's a rivalry game. But from the players and coaches' standpoint, there is a lot of respect from a really, really, really good Georgia team for Georgia Tech's program. And I think in the middle of a rebuild, that is all you can ask for.
Yeah.
All you can ask for.
Completely agreed. It is. I've watched this game. I don't know, no less than probably going on 20 times at least in my life. This particular rivalry. I don't know that I've ever watched this game and seen the end of it where the two head coaches come together, the middle of the field, and are talking to each other, and not like jawing at each other, like hugging each other and talking for 45 seconds or something. I mean, they were together for a long time, and clearly, as you mentioned, Mike, there is a lot of respect there, and where, this has been a pretty one-sided rivalry for a pretty lengthy amount of time, and it's felt disrespectful. The only other time I can remember since getting to college, basically 15 years ago, that I have seen less jawing from Georgia fans after they win this game was 2015, where they needed to win this game to get to a bowl game, if I remember right, and that was Mark Richt's last game as head coach. It was more like everyone's embarrassed of what they were watching. Like that's the only time I've seen less jawing from, like, most of Georgia fans at this point. Like, damn, like, y'all brought it, So it's respectful, I think, at this point.
One final thing, just to wrap this up, for my podcast co-host at Hokie Hangover, RickyLeBlue. If there's anything we learned from this game, it's that Georgia absolutely guaranteed a college football playoff berth regardless of next week, right, Joe Tess? And look, we're all in a text thread. You, me, Ricky, Andrew, Scott. We have a group chat. Just really so I can coordinate my schedule with all of you. That's really what it's there for.
The title of the thread is "The Roast of Mike McDaniel," for those wondering. So
yeah, just a peek.
That's specifically what it's about, is Mike coordinating his schedule. Yes,
really, yeah, that's really it. And just sponsorship money stuff. We have shared sponsors. There's a lot of stuff flying around there. Anyway, we were all in agreement. Joe Tessitore, insane how much he was commenting on Georgia being a lock and being in. Everybody's calling him an SEC shill because he works for ESPN, got the talking orders from above. I don't know how much of that is true, but it's really, really funny. Ricky, that is in no way why the group chat exists. Yeah. Yeah, it exists so we can troll the shit out of you. Yes, that's correct. But is Joe Tessitore probably right? Yes, he's probably right. Does it make it any less annoying? No. It's very, very annoying. When there's a lot of football left to be played, it's very, very annoying to be like, yeah, they're a lock. Okay, look. No, I just gave Georgia Tech their flowers. We've been talking this game for 17 minutes.
Yeah.
But are we absolutely sure just because Georgia beat a 7-5 Georgia Tech team in 8 overtimes at home that they're a lock for the college football playoff because they beat a middle-of-the-road ACC team in 8 overtimes? Come on. What are we doing?
Yeah, grow up. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So that was annoying.
I've got 2 things I want to do here, Mike, real quick. I got one, game-specific thing. I want to hit on the macro Georgia Tech thing. I've had multiple Tech fans tweeting at me and stuff, needing this therapy session. I'm going to give some food for thought on the large-scale trajectory of the Tech program, and then we'll move on, and we won't talk about this game the rest of the night. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I think it's important that we acknowledge that Georgia Tech did not go for 2 at the bottom of the first overtime.
Dude, oh my God. How did I forget? Sorry, so much flying around. How did we forget?
I know. As somebody mentioned, so much happened in this game, right? Like, that has to be brought up. And I want to call that out. And it was asked of Brent Key in the postgame press conference, why did you not go for 2 after the first overtime? And what he said was, I heard the play call. I didn't like it. We had a special 2-point play. We had already had to burn it earlier in the game. And we moved on. So we just kicked it and went. I don't know how true all that is, because I certainly saw a camera shot in the middle of the second overtime when Tech scores a touchdown, and Brent Key looks over and holds up the number 1 finger as when we're going for 1, we're kicking the extra point. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the stupid overtime rules.
Have to go for 2.
You have to go for 2. So there is a piece of me, and I just in all fairness and all objectivity, there is a piece of me that thinks that Brent Key might not have known that starting in the second overtime, you have to go for 2.
Yeah.
And that might have influenced the decision to not go for 2 in the bottom of the first overtime. And that might have been part of the reason Tech lost the game. And so I just want to throw that out there. That's on, I don't think Brent Key's some perfect head coach, some perfect decision maker. I think he made a mistake. I told you in the moment that he's making a mistake. Everyone agreed he's making a mistake. Go for 2. But I don't think it was conservatism. I think it might have been he didn't know the rules, which is the same BS that we make fun of Dion for, and I mean, whoever else, right? Like,
and Cristobal and everybody, but more on him in a few. And we have a Syracuse fan, Emma, in the comments saying she's waiting very patiently. Will be next game.
So
it is the next game we're hitting on in like 2 minutes. He should have gone for 2 in the first overtime, in my opinion. The longer the game goes on, the more it favors the team with more talent.
Yeah.
And Georgia's got more talent, and they're at home. And ultimately, it took 8 of them, but the team with more talent won the game, right?
Yeah.
And you have your best 2-point play, or your second best, I guess, in this case, because they burned it earlier in the game.
Yeah.
You have your second best 2-point play, or run the same damn play. Georgia couldn't stop you in this game for a really long time. Just run the same thing, see what happens. I disagreed with the decision. Whether he intended to do it or not, I don't know. You bring up a really good point there that nobody has made on the internet, so I just want to commend you for that. I think you might be onto something there. I would have gone for 2. And because, again, macro point, end result's the same. You took top 10 Georgia to overtime on the road in Athens, and you're a 7-4 team, a decent middle of the road ACC team, and you got your rival on the ropes, a college football playoff, college football title contender, on the ropes in their place. The end result's the same. You go for 2 and lose, okay.
Ended on your terms. Yeah.
Ended on your terms. Go for 2 and lose, okay. End result. You lost in 8 overtimes. How do you feel any better?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Will Secor, watching the other 2-point conversions, do you think going for 2 would have gone well, though? Probably not, honestly. I thought it was weird they just continued to pass and pass and pass, and didn't even once try to run the ball there until you had it from the 1-yard line in the 7th overtime. Anyways.
All it takes is one hit and one time. Yeah.
Quick macro therapy session, and then we're out of here. Yeah. Georgia Tech's win total from Vegas this year was 4.5. Maybe 5 if you got a bad number.
Overall success.
You won 7. Who were the 5 games that they lost, Mike? Georgia, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, and Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
We realize what do all those 5 teams have in common? They're all going to bowl games.
Barely.
4 of them won 8 games. 2 of them are going to the playoff. So to your point, Mike, the trajectory of the program, stop losing to just, slapdick programs left and right. They didn't lose as a 3-touchdown favorite to Bowling Green. They didn't lose as a 2-touchdown favorite to Boston College this year at home. they didn't lose that game, right? Like they were at least in every game. I mean, you played with your backup quarterback against a playoff-bound Notre Dame team. You played a series of backups in Blacksburg against a Virginia Tech team that was peaking at the time. And that was kind of as bad as it got. Like we said that you probably should have beat Louisville if not for a couple of dumb mistakes, but like you played with them for 60 minutes. You knock off that Miami team. You damn near knocked off this Georgia team. Like things are trending positively. And it's not like you can put the whole thing on Haynes King, right? Because Aaron Philo played a heavy role in beating Miami. He played a heavy role in beating NC State.
Goes both ways. Goes both ways, man.
And that's, you got Haynes King out of the portal. You got Aaron Philo out of high school. He's a true freshman. Brent Key has built this staff. He made kind of an off-the-wall hire, hiring Buster Faulkner as his offensive coordinator, who's this analyst guy from Georgia. Guess who every program looking for an offensive coordinator in the country right now wants as their offensive coordinator? All right, so he took a while. He finally had to hire a replacement defensive coordinator. He goes with Tyler Santucci, who was this guy who had worked for Mike Elko, but Elko didn't want to take with him to A&M. We'll see how that's going to work out. I think it worked out pretty well. That defense got better throughout the year, right? And now all of a sudden, look who's a little bit of a name on the coaching market. And guess who's got like a top 20 recruiting class and a potentially top recruiting class in the history of this school? I'm just saying, if you lose a coordinator, if you lose, a recruit here, that arrow's pointing upwards for Georgia Tech, and it sucks to lose this game. But man, you're starting to get a lot of respect on the national level with the way that they've played in the last month or so, and with the way you're recruiting, and with some of the coaching staff you've hired, and all. It is hard to not be optimistic about the future of the program. If you look at where it was when Brent Key took over as the interim 2.5 years ago to where they are now, they're in a pretty good place, Mike. I say 2.5 years, 2.5 seasons, a little over 2 years on the calendar. But anyways,
well, I'm going to end it here because this is a great transition. I would rather have Brent Key than Mario Cristobal. Number 7, Georgia, 44, Georgia Tech 42. And that brings us to our second game. Syracuse 42, number 6, Miami 38. Man, Miami, I'm Joey. I mean, this is so fun. I mean, this is so funny. I'm sorry. There's going to be a lot of Miami fans mad at the comments. I know we have that one as the Ranger guy for SMU that's like probably the most mad he's ever been, like at us, and that's fine. But he's never seen Miami fans be mad at us before. And boy, buddy, if you've been with us, you've been riding with us since like season 1, like 9 years ago. If you've been with us for almost a decade, you know that
Miami play in the ACC championship game once.
Oh my God! Look, I have said all year. We'll get to the Syracuse part in a second because that's significant here. We have said all year that the difference between 7-5 Miami and this Miami is Cam Ward, right? It's Cam Ward. He's the difference, right?
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
If you can't get to the ACC title with one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and you got all that talent, you won all these games, you finished the year 10-2, and you still don't make the ACC title game, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And I am not completely sure that they are going to do it under Mario Cristobal, and I am ready to take that, to bring you that take that take to market. Where I'm not sure they're going to do it under Mario Cristobal. And I'm not saying win an ACC title. I'm talking like make the title game. I'm not sure they'll do it under Mario Cristobal. I am ready to bring that to market right here on this podcast this evening.
Did you notice how quickly Dan Lanning turned Oregon into the number 1 team in the country after Mario Cristobal left? Just asking questions.
Cannot game manage his way out of a paper bag.
No, not even a wet paper bag. Miami goes up in this game 21-0, which in a way is not the game script that we've gotten used to Miami screwing around in games this year. Like usually it's keep it close, and then like late in the third, early in the fourth, they pull away. No, Miami just like took care of business. First three drives of the game. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Boom, 21-0, and it's still the first. It's like early in the second quarter. Okay, so it's on, and Miami's just going to roll them. They're going to Charlotte. Game's over. And then Mike, Syracuse, touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, and all of a sudden, midway through the third quarter, we're tied at 28. And that thing we mentioned in the preview about if Kyle McCord gets hot, guess what, Mike? Guess who got hot in this game?
Kyle McCord.
Kyle McCord got hot. 26 of 36 for 383 scores. LaQuinn Allen had a couple scores on the ground. Trebor Pena, Jackson Meeks, both over 100 yards receiving for Syracuse. We have said for a long time, this offense is clearly just going to be based on how good Kyle McCord is on a given day. I don't know how good he was for the first 7-8 minutes of this game. He was really, really good for the final 45 to 50 minutes of this game, and that made all of the difference for Syracuse.
Yeah, it certainly did. The other thing that made all the difference, that Xavier Restrepo fumble that got returned for a touchdown. That's a killer. That's an absolute killer, right? Especially when Syracuse has all the momentum in the game, storing back, tying it up. And then you have that play at that time with your potentially All-American wide receiver. Like, that's not out of the question. I know there's a lot of good wide receivers. That's not out of the question. Like, Restrepo's been incredible this year for Miami.
I think that was the moment that I texted the group chat. This game is drunk as hell.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
You got real loose in the third quarter there.
I want to stay on the Syracuse side of this because there's a Cristobal conversation to be had in terms of one decision he made down the stretch in this game, which really made me mad from a betting standpoint and made Miami fans mad whether they bet on the game or not. I want to stay on the Syracuse point for a second. Kyle McCord has been incredible for them this year, and I know he had that 5-turnover performance against Pittsburgh, and I know not every single game has been perfect, but he has been incredible for Syracuse this year. The passing game has been unlocked in a way that it really hasn't been since that one Eric Dungy year like 6 years ago. They've been really, really good. The offense obviously has looked totally different. It's not this like Garrett Schrader, Sean Tucker, we're just going to run up the middle and hope for the best for 4 quarters. It's really just been totally opened up under this coaching staff. They've done a great job throwing the ball. I know running the ball hasn't always been great this year for Syracuse, but the one thing I will say, in 2 of their comeback wins now, the one against Virginia Tech and the one against Miami, when they absolutely needed a running play, they got it from LaQuinn Allen. The offensive line made a play when it needed to in the running game with this up and down performance on the ground this year, but they found a way to get it done, man. They found a way to get it done. So shout out Syracuse. Shout out Fran Brown. 9-3 in year 1 at Syracuse. We've made a lot of jokes about Fran Brown on this podcast for like his weird press conference quotes and all this stuff. To get Syracuse to 9-3 in year 1, what he was walking into, and Dino Babers, it wasn't a wasteland. Like, they'd been to bowl games and stuff like that. But to walk in and turn that program into 9-3 and to look really impressive doing it, the fact that I think David Hale from ESPN tweeted this out, we'd be having a conversation about Syracuse in the college football playoff if they hadn't lost to Stanford early in the year. And I think that's legitimate given some of their wins. I think that's legitimate, right?
Yep.
I think it's a testament to Fran Brown. Speaking of arrow pointing up trajectory, Syracuse, we're there. McCord, I think, exhausts his eligibility. I don't think he has any left.
I think that's
weird COVID stuff. I think this is it for McCord. I know he's a senior, but we got to make the COVID jokes.
You know what we say on this podcast? Eligibility is fake. Like,
it's fake. It's fake. Anybody
matters.
And anybody can have it. I turned 33 in 6 months. I'm pretty sure I have some eligibility left somewhere.
Yeah, like 2 years probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So Fran Brown, ACC Coach of the Year. Not sure it's particularly close. Incredible from Syracuse.
Favorite in the clubhouse. You could probably, it's not like wildly clear, but probably the favorite in the clubhouse. Fran Brown. Yep.
Now, that's the Syracuse side. Awesome 9-3, great year. Going to a fun bowl game. Good stuff. Really good stuff from Syracuse.
Can I just call out this comment from Emma K?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
The Kyle McCord thing. Who had a better day than Kyle McCord, who goes out there and upsets a top 10 Miami team as his old team who said, you're not good enough, loses as a, 17 point favorite, more at home against a super underwhelming Michigan team.
Yeah.
Dude, Kyle McCord riding cloud 9 this weekend.
Yeah, that was the second take I brought to market, was that Ohio State lost the quarterback swap, going Will Howard from Kansas State and becoming worse at the position than if they just kept Kyle McCord. Anyway, NDS 133, Manny Diaz deserves some credit. Yes, he does, and he could very well win Coach of the Year too. But I think, given where Syracuse was relative to Duke last year, I think there's an argument to be made for Fran Brown. Anyway, the Miami side, Cristobal kicks a field goal. We're going to get into this right now. Syracuse
under 4 minutes left.
Under 4 minutes left, 42-35 Syracuse leads. Miami drives down the field, under 4 minutes left, kicks a field goal with, let's get the clock right, 3:42 to go. Borregales hits a 27-yard field goal. When they ran the special teams unit out, I texted you, I can't believe they're doing this.
Can I also mention, they started that drive with 9 minutes and 16 seconds left on the clock.
Near 6-minute drive.
They take 5.5 minutes to get it down inside the 10.
I have a few problems with this. Number one, at this juncture in the game with under 4 minutes left, you obviously know what kind of game you're in. And you are trailing. I understand having faith in Cam Ward if you get the football back one more time. I get that part of the decision. What I don't understand is you kick the short field goal. You're down 7 at the time, right? It's a one-score game to tie and get it to overtime. And now you still need a touchdown to win. A field goal is not going to do it after you kick this shorty, right? So it's 42-38. That's part number one I don't understand. Part number two is that you are putting a lot of faith in your defense to get a stop when it hadn't really gotten a stop since the first quarter. I mean, you had the Syracuse fumble there in the third, right? But like realistically, outside of that, I mean, the last Syracuse punt was late in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, it was in late first quarter was the last time Syracuse punted.
Yeah,
so
up
like
to that point, 4 Syracuse drives in the second half. Touchdown, fumble, touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, if Syracuse wasn't turning it over, they were putting the ball in the end zone. So I didn't get that at all. So Syracuse gets the ball back. They just run out the clock. They pick up a couple first downs. Game's over.
And guess what happened?
Oh, by the way, Miami jumped offside too. We should mention that. They were trying to get off the field, and they jumped offside and gave Syracuse a fresh set of downs. And that's how they lost this game too. So, look, Mario Cristobal, recruiter, really good. Like Mario Cristobal, like getting his team motivated and up to play in most cases, good. The game management stuff, man. He is there are 134 FBS teams. I'd put him sub 120s in terms of game management. He's
arguably
awful.
sub 130.
Arguably awful.
Almost couldn't be worse.
Worse than the P4 for sure. I mean, Brent Pryde's got an argument, but I mean, Cristobal's got a longer history of doing this.
Yeah, this is I mean, as I mentioned, you had a chance. You needed to get in the end zone, right? And kicking the field goal doesn't change that. You still need to get in the end zone. And you had the chance to put that in the hands of your Heisman candidate quarterback, or you could kick the field goal and put it in the hands of your defense, who's given up nearly 450 yards, 42 points, and has not really gotten a stop in the second half. And you went with that one. Yeah. And you got what you got. And I made this comment with Cam preseason, is we're at the point where Whatever you think Miami, like you start looking at matchups and you look at, how many games do I think they're going to win on a year? You basically have to downgrade them a year because Mario Cristobal is going to cost them a game with really poor, conservative, questionable decision making. It's going to happen. And it continues to happen. And it happened here again. And it's like Miami at this point, I really I hate this conversation so much. Miami's probably on the outside looking into the playoff, and between this loss and Clemson losing to South Carolina, which we'll get to, the ACC may have gone from a 3-bid league to a 1-bid league, and all of that. But like you talk about Miami accomplishing their goals coming into the year, you're not eligible to win the ACC championship. You might not be eligible to win the national championship, and in a game where you had a 21-0 lead and the best quarterback in the country. And that's what you end up with?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Like Scott said, enjoy the Camping World Bowl. The one last thing to finish this out, because I think we hit on the high points of this game.
Yeah.
Emma mentioned, and I lost it. Here it is. I have no idea why Cristobal did that, referring to the field goal. Completely ceded the tempo to Syracuse. Clock management's our strong suit. Our defense is not. I knew we were winning when they ran out Borregales. Yep. Yep. And I found it interesting, too, because I just mentioned the thing about, trusting Cam Ward with one last possession, Joey. But you didn't trust Cam Ward to put the ball in the end zone on that 4th down play with your season on the line? That's what?
I mean, worth noting also that there was a 2nd and goal unsportsmanlike conduct penalty from Miami right before that.
Yeah, your 2nd and goal was from the 23 or the 24-yard line, which wasn't ideal. So bad stuff, man. A lot of long off season of reflection. This is your best shot to win an ACC title in a really long time, and
this is a hell of a coaching job by Syracuse and Fran Brown. Hashtag winners get washed. Hashtag let me see it for another year or two, and then I'll decide how I totally feel about this regime. I need to make sure it's not all Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
I need to make sure it's not all Kyle McCord is what I need.
That's fair.
So.
That's fair.
Syracuse 42, number 6 Miami 38.
We are an hour into the podcast. We have recapped 2 games, so
we should probably get to our 3rd game now. Yeah.
We'll get things moving here a little bit. Number 15 South Carolina 17, number 12 Clemson 14. Before the Miami game, we thought that this was going to be the most consequential result of the day for the ACC.
Surprise.
Because this meant that number 12 Clemson in the college football playoff rankings was probably playing their way out of a playoff opportunity. Clemson actually played well here for a majority of this game. I thought they, obviously struggled to move it against South Carolina's front. We talked about how difficult it would be for Clemson's banged up offensive line to go up against South Carolina's really stout defense. Clemson really struggled to run it. They committed to the run, but they really struggled to run it. I thought Klubnik, by and large, played pretty well here. South Carolina was certainly trying to get after him. I thought Clemson's offensive line held up well in pass protection, but really struggled to run it. It was just one of those games you'd have to grind it out, and Clemson's defense played well, and Lenora Sellers just made one of those plays, right? It was a tight game late, and he made the play. And I think sometimes that's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And, I think this loss would be tougher to swallow as a Clemson fan if you weren't going to Charlotte. But, yeah, I mean, you backed your way into Charlotte, and you have a chance to kind of redeem yourself against SMU. But, yeah, this is tough for Clemson. This is a really nice win for South Carolina. They needed it bad for, their potential playoff hopes and to get to 9-3, and they're, whether or not they deserve to be in. I mean, you and I have had that discussion separately, but there's no dispute. I mean, we talked about in the preview, they are one of the hottest teams in the country. And I think Shane Beamer made a pretty good argument where he said, look, I understand we have 3 losses. I get it. But he said, if, we're in the bracket, I'm not sure there are many teams that would be really excited to play us right now. And I do agree with him there. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, Clemson got a hot team at a tough time, and they were the better team. I thought Clemson was a better team here for a lot of it, and South Carolina just made some plays down the stretch, and the Klubnik interception to seal it after you drive deep into South Carolina territory. Late's tough to swallow, but you're going to Charlotte, so I don't know.
I feel like I need to bring up the fact that our guy Dan has had me in a little bit of a blender this year, calling games weird games and feeling like I need to explain what I mean by that. But this is a game where both teams went over 400 yards and neither team scored 20 points. Mm-hmm. And I think that weird game, there were 5 turnovers here, weird game. It was very much a thing where like both teams were able to move the ball, get a couple first downs here or there, but then drives would just stall out because you have good plays by the defenses and that kind of thing. It was very competitive. And Clemson never trailed until the final 2 minutes of this game. And yeah, as you mentioned, Lenora Sellers just makes a hell of a play there late in the game on a third and kind of long. And South Carolina gets there. And that's, it happens. And again, I don't really blame Clemson too terribly much for this loss. I think South Carolina is just a lot better than we thought they would be 3 months ago, right? Like they've had a pretty good year, and I think that team has gotten better down the stretch and is improving week over week. Credit to Clemson for blocking the way that they did. South Carolina only gets 1 sack in this game, 3 tackles for loss. I didn't think Clemson played a poor game here. It was just some timely stuff late in the game that kind of defined how this game ended. And South Carolina is really good, I think, at least at this point. And Clemson a little less good. I don't have a lot of in-depth analysis here. Just this is a really competitive, good game. And I thought Cade Klubnik played reasonably well, and it just wasn't enough in the end. And it sucks, but sometimes that happens.
Yeah. I think this was Clemson's best. Dabo would probably dispute this, but I think like adjusting for opponent. Dabo definitely listens to the show, so it's fine. I think adjusting for opponent, I think this was one of the best games Clemson played this year. Yeah, I do. You look at the schedule, and you look at some of their big wins. They score a lot of points early in the year, and they're rolling on offense, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think adjusting for opponent, this was one of the best games they played all year. So
maybe
So it sucks to lose that game, right? Mm-hmm. It sucks that you lost that game. Just a tough loss. Like I don't point to this and say, we've made comments about Dabo and the culture and the transfer portal, all this stuff, and like, is he recruiting as well as he used to? All this stuff. That had nothing to do with what happened Saturday.
No, yeah.
South Carolina's gotten better. Clemson's not the national title team that they were under Dabo, so they've taken a step back in that regard. But this isn't like a referendum loss like it would have been a couple years ago where South Carolina was in the dumps and Clemson, This isn't like an Ohio State losing to, 6-win Michigan. Like, it's not that type of loss.
Yeah.
Like, this is a tough one, and Clemson fans I know are really angry about it, but you have a chance to go to Charlotte and play for a shot at the college football playoff in a year where, I think after you lost to Louisville, I think you would have loved to have had that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So
100%. Evan Sandage pains me to say USC is good again. Feels like a bit of an inflection point for both programs. Yeah, it's like coming into the year, Shane Beamer was probably closer to getting fired from South Carolina than he was to leading them to the playoff, right? And yet, at this moment, probably 1 or 2 results next weekend away from South Carolina having a way to sneak in.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's more so credit to South Carolina than it is anything against Clemson. Honestly, and
yeah,
it sucks to lose this game, but you were a 2.5-point favorite and you lost by 3. Like that's not like some unthinkable outcome. So it sucks for Clemson, but this isn't totally unpredictable. And again, it's more a credit to South Carolina, I think, than a referendum against the Tigers. Despite what Lucius Orange is throwing out there.
I was gonna say, well, two comments in succession, right? I was making the comment about like how it's, a referendum loss, and sarcastically, no, every single time Clemson loses is a referendum loss, don't you know? And he follows that up with, every single time we lose, the entire national media acts like Dabo's completely brain dead and needs to go back to selling insurance, which is really funny because that is the national narrative. That's why I went out of my way to say that if you're going to point to losses in Dabo's tenure and say that this isn't especially recently, this isn't the program that it used to be, this is not the game to do it.
Yeah.
It's coin flip. Coin flip
Yep.
game. It's a coin flip game, man.
Yep.
It's tough. It's a tough one, but you have a chance. You have a chance as a 3-loss ACC team to steal a bid into the college football playoff. Mike, being a college football writer, has me in a blender right now. Thank you, Joey.
In response to Volusia's Orange, obviously you were smarter than 95% of college football writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, tough loss for Clemson, but to me, not a big referendum situation. Like, it sucks and you move on, and they're a small favorite against SMU next week, because once again, Miami lost. Clemson's into the ACC championship game. They're going to Charlotte to play the startup top 10 SMU Mustangs.
Oh, yes. Haven't had their program that long, right? Oil money, something about death penalty.
I was going to say,
Crazy.
What? Somebody said something about a gold Trans Am. I don't know how that goes, but anyways.
Oh man, that's the stuff.
ESPN bet showing that Clemson opened a 2-point favorite and is now a 2.5-point underdog in that game. Interesting.
Not surprised it swung that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not surprised. Anything else here?
South Carolina 17, Clemson 14.
Let's go to the old Tar Heel State. NC State 35, North Carolina 30. Man, Mac, not like this.
Not like this.
Not like this.
North Carolina scores with a little bit under 2 minutes to go to take a 30-29 lead in this game. And then NC State, 6 plays, 75 yards, touchdown with 25 seconds left. Hollywood Smothers into the end zone, straight through the heart of the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill, and sending off Mac Brown with one final big L in this game. Whew, buddy. NC State bowl eligible, as I told you I thought they would be. That team has improved the back half of the year. They are in a better spot than they were late in September. North Carolina, about one win better than I thought they would be.
A bad finish to the year for Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Bad finish to the year.
You think they should look at replacing him as head coach, or like?
Yeah, it's tough. We'll get to the North Carolina side in a second. Casey Concepcion is in the transfer portal for NC State.
Not good for Raleigh.
It's not good, but he's just been okay this year.
I think other teams have schemed against him. I think they realize that's your big playmaker.
Okay.
Take him
just
away.
Been okay. I mean, doesn't even have 500 yards receiving. I know he does a lot for them, but like that, it's not great. You'd rather have him than not, but like, is it catastrophic? No, they'll be okay.
Fair.
CJ Bailey, NC State's got something with him. I know it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but I think they're really going to benefit from the experience that he got this year. And there's been more good than bad. So I think overall, arrows pointing up at quarterback.
He does some freshman things, but he's got some moxie, man. That guy can do some fun, exciting things.
Yeah. So I think they're in good shape there. Don't need to go portal shopping for a quarterback this year. I think you're good. I think you're good with CJ. He's a player. NC State's defense, which we have commended, had a really hard time in this game.
In the second half.
Yeah, in the second half. Yeah, in particular. Omarion Hampton, he's like one of like two things North Carolina has done well on offense this year, and you let him go for almost 200 yards. That was really hard. That's tough. But yeah, overall, I mean, you make the play late, and that is really all that matters. This game was very back and forth in the second half. A lot of offense. You made the play when you needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And two in particular. You score the touchdown when you need to with like no time left. And then Carolina fumbled, which is like insult to injury there at the very end. That was the whole whoop-de-doo, we're going to throw it all over the field thing. That was how the game ended, which has to feel good, right? Goes down to turnover.
Should we talk about how many stops that Jeff Collins' North Carolina defense got in the second half?
I have a number. You and I got the same number of stops that defense did, Joey.
I'm saying my hand got blown off by a firework last year, and I've got enough fingers to count how many stops that defense got in the second half.
Jason Pierre-Paul of the podcast. JPP.
I don't need 3 fingers to count how many stops they got. It was 0. 0. Field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. After halftime.
Blow your hand off. You still don't need that many fingers. I don't know what NC State did differently schematically in the second half, but whatever it was, do that more often.
Yeah, it worked.
It worked. Yeah.
I mean, NC State, again, going to a bowl game. This is a really interesting offseason for them, I think. Again, this is a disappointing season by any stretch. I see a team that was ranked coming into the year, had Grayson McCall coming in as your quarterback, and had Casey Concepcion coming back, and the defense is always usually pretty good, and just really kind of went through the wilderness for the first half or so of the year. And I mean, got a couple of wins, but it was way harder than it had to be against a Western Carolina team, and you got obliterated a couple times early on, but they improved down the stretch. And now you've got one of your best offensive playmakers in the portal already. And just, I don't know. It's an interesting offseason, and things kind of seems like they could break positively or negatively. And you got a bowl game before that, so it's not quite the offseason yet, but you know, with signing day coming up and all that, who knows? Carolina, I have no idea what you're doing here in Chapel Hill, and I don't know how to feel one way or the other. I got to see who they're going to hire, and I don't know if it's good or bad. Or we'll talk more about that probably on the preview later this week of kind of candidates and what would you do and that kind of thing. But I think both these programs heavily in flux, and some for more obvious reasons than others.
Yeah, on the Carolina point, I'm seeing some. We have a heavy Georgia Tech contingent in here tonight, as you'd imagine. I'm seeing a lot of Jeff Collins jokes in the chat about him costing Mac his job. I want to push back on that. It's a fun joke, but like Mac wasn't able to hire a good defensive coordinator his entire second stint at North Carolina.
Able to hire Jeff Collins,
right? And I think there is an argument to be made that offense was more of an issue than the defense this year. Like they really could not throw it consistently at all, and teams figured that out, schemed up for Hampton in a lot of cases, and
for what it's worth,
in particular,
they did lose Max Johnson week 1 against Minnesota.
Yep, broke his leg.
However, we said at the time,
is that the worst thing in the world?
He didn't look awesome to begin with, so like,
yeah, anywhere.
Yeah, so I don't know how much of that's an excuse.
Yeah. I'm not going to read that comment. That's very funny from Wilsicor. I'm going to leave that there. Yeah, interesting offseason. We'll see how North Carolina hires. I don't know. Freddie Kitchens, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, is going to be coaching North Carolina in the bowl game. So Mac is done officially. Also, did you see the comment real fast? Did you see the comment from Mac Brown after the game? He was like real pissed at how the Carolina administration handled his departure.
I didn't see specific comments, but I heard the commentary on the comments. It was like Mac is pissed and Mac is being a jerk about it. And you know what? go off, King. Like, whatever.
Yeah, the general gist of it was that essentially the administration wanted Mac to issue his resignation, or they wanted to announce the firing before NC State, or they wanted him to resign before NC State, and he wasn't going to do that because he knew how important the rivalry game was. So the administration just pulled the trigger for him, which that's why you listen to this podcast, folks, because I told you that a couple days ago, right? I told you that's how it went down. That's why you listen to the show. And Mac essentially said I wasn't going to do that to my kids before this huge game. And Mac also mentioned, which I thought was interesting, he knew it was kind of time, which I think some of that's posturing, because didn't he just say on Monday that he planned to be back next year?
I'll be back.
Yeah. So whatever, man. I don't know. I like Mac Brown. Hope for the best for him. You know, maybe he can get back into TV. That'd be fun. But this was,
sure.
This is something. Good personality.
We're gonna need to spend a little bit of time on the North Carolina job, and I think that's an interesting conversation for us to have. But we can have that on the preview show later this week.
Yeah, I think so. We'll have time. It'll be in one game.
I'm good here if you are.
I am. I mean, we gotta get moving. We do have a bunch of blowouts here that we'll be able to talk through too.
So NC State 35, Carolina 30. Can we do the SMU game just to satisfy? I think that's the only fan in the chat that has not yet
yes
heard their game talked about. Rangers King 669 asking about SMU. Number 9 SMU 38, Cal 6. I personally, I thought Cal might win this game, Mike, and so I kind of can't believe that SMU pulled this one off. One of these days, people are going to realize it's a bit and not serious.
We previewed,
not today.
We previewed this game. In all seriousness, we previewed this game for a total of like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, because you and I both picked SMU so quickly that there was really nothing to talk about. I mean, this is
13.5, I think.
Yeah, 13.5. They covered with ease. SMU a whole heck of a lot better than Cal, obviously, at this juncture. Also, Cal, Fernando Mendoza did not play in this game, right?
Yeah.
So that was not that I would have liked Cal's chances any better if he was in, but that obviously made things a little bit more difficult for Cal offensively. So SMU's defense really shut things down, and Cal continues to have a really hard time running the ball somehow with Jaden Ott, which is weird, and Javion Thomas didn't even play here. A lot of stuff with Cal that just didn't have the roster to even pretend to be competitive here, and SMU really good. I mean, Kevin Jennings was really good here, like he has been. Brashard Smith, another nice game on the ground. SMU just overpowered Cal and took care of business. And I am of the opinion, Joey, I'm going to make this statement now. I am of the opinion that SMU, and I doubt it'll play out this way because, committee doing committee things. I am of the opinion that no matter what happens on Saturday in the ACC championship game, short of SMU getting frickin' boat raced by Clemson, I think SMU should be in the college football playoff. I think the ACC should get 2 teams in. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it should. Like, I think SMU, with how they've played against their schedule, if we're going to make the argument for Indiana, right, with all the teams Indiana's played and how Indiana has looked in their wins against inferior competition, I think we can make the same argument for SMU, and SMU is going to be playing in a conference title game. I think the case can be made there.
Can we make sure that you're clear on that? You said you don't care what happens Saturday night. We're saying and you said 2 teams should be in from the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean if SMU wins Saturday night, you still think Clemson should be in?
No,
Miami should be in?
No, I don't. I think the ACC gets 2 teams in. Thank you. The ACC gets 2 teams in my opinion, if Clemson wins a close game against SMU. I think otherwise this is a one-bid league. I don't see a path for Miami because I don't think they've beaten anybody good enough. On their best win, arguably, 7-5 Florida in the opener. I don't see it for Miami, even with 2 losses. I think the 3-loss SEC teams have a better argument than 2-loss Miami. I just don't, especially with how Miami has looked in some of their wins.
There's something about a third loss
that, man.
that really grinds my gears.
I understand.
I would rather see a 1-loss Mountain West team in or something like
yeah.
3. You're the 4th and 5th best team in your own conference. You lost 3 times. You don't deserve to play for the national title. And I don't care if that tanks your friggin' ratings on December 21st. Go to hell with that. If we're doing this the right way, the 1-loss near conference champ, whatever, deserves to be in over the 3-loss. Well, we only lost to Vandy and, really?
Where you run into an issue is both, and I'm trying to make a case for South Carolina, but where you run into an issue is there are 2 SEC teams with 3 losses in front of South Carolina, right? And Ole Miss and Alabama that both beat South Carolina this year, right? So it's as hot as South Carolina is, and as much as I agree with Shane Beamer, I don't think anybody wants to see them right now. The hottest team in college football doesn't mean that you get a spot. You lost 3 games, right? Mm-hmm. So I get that, and I understand Lenora Sellers was hurt in the LSU loss. I get it, but you just can't. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, SMU I think should be the bottom line is I think SMU should be in almost regardless of result on Saturday. I'm not sure the committee is going to see it the same way. I think unless SMU loses by like 35 points to Clemson, which is not going to happen, short of that happening, I think SMU deserves to be in the playoff. I think they've looked good enough against everybody they've played and all their wins. Yeah. I'm
with you.
And by the way, I'm not just catering to our friend Rangers King and pandering for a sub on YouTube. I truly, because he said he's only going to subscribe to us if we give SMU respect. I truly believe I truly believe this. Like, it's been a troll job for like 6 weeks. We've been trolling for 6 weeks, really.
Yeah.
If you've actually listened to our analysis of SMU, I think we've been pretty lockstep from like early November on that this is a really good team. They just keep beating the brakes off of mediocre teams. They're just winning games by a lot of points.
And if you're new here, most of this is a bit, right? Like, we make fun of everybody.
Right.
And, I think I pretty clearly said last week when we were making jokes about Rhett Lashley being a candidate for North Carolina, I said pretty blatantly, why would you leave SMU right now for North Carolina? What he's got rolling there is a really good thing. And if I have a complaint about anything, it's this new stupid 17-team league scheduling model that, I can make comments about who's the best team anyone's played, but all SMU has done is go and beat everyone they've played in the ACC. And in a lot of cases, they've beaten them by more than 1 score. And so at that point, what can I say? And what reason do I have to criticize? And as I mentioned a minute ago, Clemson opened a 2-point favorite against us. I think I said a week or two ago, I can't wait for Clemson or Miami to get their hands on SMU. SMU's a favorite now in that game. And I'm not really like all that gung-ho to bet against them. Why would I do that?
Yeah. With more data, I'm not sure I'm
Well, and so that was the one thing I wanted to mention on this game in particular. And you mentioned the Frankie Mendoza didn't play and no Javion Thomas for Cal. Obviously, SMU's defense dominated here. I just wanted to mention, even if they did play, I still think SMU's defense is playing at a level that they could have suppressed Cal's offense substantially to cover a 2-score spread.
Yes,
basically.
absolutely.
I don't think that those two guys not playing is the reason that they won this game by a lot. I think that has something to do with the margin, but
Right.
I think SMU is a substantially better team than Cal right now, even if those guys are playing. So
That's why we both bet them. We both agreed on the preview. Win and a cover here with ease. I mean, we previewed this game very quickly. We're feeling pretty good about it for SMU.
Yep.
Maybe you don't win by 32 if it's Mendoza instead of Chandler Rogers and
maybe it's only 21.
folk. Right. Cruising here. Yeah.
Yep.
SMU's good, man. SMU is they're just straight up good. They're good. And I had Billy Embody on for the season preview, and he said, what's going to tell the tale is whether or not SMU got good enough in the trenches in the transfer portal. And I think we know the answer to that now, right? On both sides of the football. I think we know the answer. Like, definitively good enough for the ACC. Like, they upgraded there when they needed to from coming over from the American, and they're in a good spot now.
But to your point, Mike, I completely agree. Short of losing to Clemson by 30, SMU had damn well better be in the playoff.
Yeah.
There's basically no excuse for not putting them in at this point. And
not with how they've looked.
I have my questions. Are they national title good? But if that's the worst thing I can say about you, then that's hardly an insult. So
right. Yeah. Yep.
Number 9 SMU 38 Cal 6.
Okay, there's I'm taking a look at the docket here. We haven't talked about Virginia Tech yet, but that'll be pretty brief. I'm just going to make fun of UVA. There are a few other games that are close, a couple games that are close, and a bunch of blowouts. So let's hit on the two that were close that I think we're going to have some comments on. First of all, Duke 23, Wake Forest 17, and I want to bring this up.
Wake,
because,
I'm so sorry,
man. My the lock came home.
Just like you drew it up.
All it took was a Hail Mary.
Oh gosh,
this was an eyesore for Wake Forest, man.
This is brutal. Gosh.
This is really tough. Wake played well here, but
yeah, Wake did everything that they could, man. And I mean, they're up 17-3 in the third quarter, and I mean, Duke scores on back-to-back touchdown drives, including one where they started off a Wake fumbled kickoff, and then it's tied, and with what was it, like 11 seconds left or something, Duke is like they're just like trying to get into field goal range, and Malik Murphy starts rolling, and all of a sudden, look who's back behind everybody. It's Jordan Moore, wide open, 39 yards, touchdown Duke as time expires, and they win the game. I mean, Duke does it again, Mike. They're 9-3, and what a hell of a season for Malik Murphy and Manny Diaz and that Duke team. And holy hell, incredible. Oh, Wake. I feel so bad for Deke fans. They did not deserve this. That sucks.
Not like that. Not like this
that.
week. Not like this. 1, 2. Is that 4 or 5 by one score? That is 4 losses this year for Wake Forest by one score. They lost another game to Cal by 10. So
yikes.
You had 8 losses. 5 of them were by 10 points or less. 1 point loss to UVA.
And Louisiana.
Yep. You had the 7-point loss to Carolina, and then obviously what just happened to you against Duke on Saturday. That is tough.
Yeah.
Worst 9-3 team? Asked by Nuke Jacket. By the way, I forgot to mention this earlier. Georgia Tech, best 7-5 team?
Probably.
Let's get them in a bowl game. Let's get them in
there.
a bowl game with Florida. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'll take that. That'd be a fun one.
We got to have a discussion about Wake in the offseason, but we're waiting to see if we hear anything on Dave Clawson.
I was going to say, there was a little bit of waiting till Sunday to do the recap that was like, I don't think I can do it tonight. Like, I'm still like in that grieving process on Saturday night. There was some of it that was like, what's going to happen around the league? Because Florida State's got a new offensive coordinator, and there's some. Stanford's got a new general manager, by the way, that we haven't gotten to yet. So, mention a couple of those things as we go.
Go there now. I want to go there now.
We're barely going to talk about Duke winning a game to get them to 9 wins because I don't have anything to talk about here. Like that's what this Duke team has been. Which, sure, fine.
I mean, it was a slog, and they went on a basically broken play Hail Mary that turned out way better than they thought. Okay.
Yeah. They scored 20 points straight to end the game to beat Wake. 9-3. What can you say?
Oh,
Duke 23, Wake Forest 17.
what a freaking comeback.
Yeah, no kidding.
Where is the banner? Found it. San Jose State 34, Stanford 31.
Dude.
Andrew Luck, new general manager of Stanford Cardinal football, by the
Work
way.
might be cut out for him.
Yeah, to say the least. Jesus, Stanford. Come on, man.
Stanford's up 31-27. They get the ball back with a little over 3.5 minutes to go. They go 3 plays. They have 3rd and 2 on their own 23-yard line. Ashton Daniels throws a horrendous interception. San Jose gets the ball with a short field, they're basically in field goal range starting the drive. 3 plays, 37 yards, touchdown to take the lead and win the game, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is you had a 4-point lead with the ball under 3.5 minutes, and it's a stupid turnover. Like, that was coming off a turnover on downs, by the way. Like, your defense gets this stop, and you think you're going to have a chance to really put this thing away, and man, what a way to lose. That sucks.
It's really tough. The one thing I want to say here is I don't think Stanford should do this whole quarterback thing next year with Ashton Daniels. I think we should maybe try something different.
I thought you were going to say like Ashton Daniels and Justin Lamson. Should they do anything with Ashton Daniels or tell him thanks for your service and enjoy the
that guy
degree
is
and move on?
I understand he's playing for Stanford. That man is a walking turnover. And how many games have we talked about this year where like, yep, there were a couple of really bad Ashton Daniels turnovers here that were like consequential in the outcome. And
10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions on the year. Is that good?
And it's really bad. And look, he was dealing with stuff like he wasn't healthy either. So it's just like I don't know. And yeah, Emma, great comment. Niumatalolo has San Jose State playing well. Good win from their perspective. Absolutely 7-5 going to a bowl game in his first year.
I think that's year 1 for Niumatalolo. Like,
yeah,
take that.
Yeah, Stanford's defense, a sieve here. Walker Eget for San Jose State threw for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was really good. Nick Nash, nothing but good things to say. Absolute stud. Yeah. I know a lot of ACC fans probably haven't been watching a whole lot of Mountain West football this year. Nick Nash is a stud, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stud. One of the best receivers in the country. He carved Stanford up. And, yeah, man. Tough. Yeah. Stanford 3-9. Troy Taylor, do something. Got to do something better next year.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else here, but yeah, as mentioned, Andrew Luck, we found out Saturday, I think, hired as official like general manager over all things football at Stanford. So I assume that means that Troy Taylor now reports to Andrew Luck, which interesting. For those who know anything about Andrew Luck, he is an enigma of a person, to say the least. Interesting guy. So
yeah,
we will see where this whole thing takes us.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him to be my boss with his communication skills. San Jose State 34, Stanford 31.
He's also smarter than me, so who knows?
Yeah, Commonwealth Cup time. Virginia Tech 37, Virginia 17. Boy, oh boy, that is 19 out of 20 and 23 of the last 25. And like I said in the rapid recap, death, taxes, and the Commonwealth Cup staying in Blacksburg. Virginia looked awful here. Tony Muskett started at quarterback. Anthony Calandria did not play, and then he hit the transfer portal after the game, which is hardly surprising given you're playing Tony Muskett in the season finale after he hasn't really played all year. And do we have that? Do we have that sound ready? Do we have that sound?
For it. I don't know that we do. Hang on.
Not having Scott.
awesome.
Not having Scott tonight.
Virginia's
that
awesome.
Oh no, no, definitely not that one.
Yeah, I think he was hoping. I think he was hoping for the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme, which I believe Scott's in charge of that one. Yeah.
Let me look. I'll see if I find it. Hang on.
All right. Sounds good. Anyway, Pop Lawson for Virginia Tech, 300 all-purpose yards, really good. I mean, just first full week.
Not?
First full week starting quarterback reps. Bashal Tootin, 18 for 124 and a touchdown. Pop threw for 254. Yeah, I mean, Virginia, this is more about Virginia than Virginia Tech. Like, nice win for the Hokies. Rough year. Good to beat your rival. Better than the alternative of losing to your rival, not going to a bowl game, having this be, like, totally catastrophic. So, good that you won there. This is a Virginia conversation. This is a Virginia conversation. They are directionless. There it is. Beautiful. Good job. Nailed it.
Hopefully that won't be us DMCA'd. So anyways, continue.
This is a Virginia conversation. What do they do?
Man.
They are lost. The offensive line has been bad since Elliott got there. They can't get quarterback right. The quarterback that they thought they had regressed this year was awful. Defensively, not good against anybody that matters. What do you do? I mean, I think the obvious is you fire Des Kitchings. I don't think Carla is going to fire Elliott. If she was, we would have heard it already, I think. What do you do? I mean, you've played Virginia Tech twice in a game that matters a lot to that Virginia fan base, and you've been totally non-competitive in both matchups. Two of the third obviously did not get played. So you've been non-competitive in your two games against Virginia Tech since you've gotten there. Like, what do you do? I don't know what Virginia does here. I think the obvious answer is you got to have a clean house, but, like, they're not going to do that. So you fire Des Kitchings and hope for the best?
Yeah. Yeah. Devin Hamilton points out Anthony Calandria is gone. He's in the transfer portal.
In the portal
today.
Yep.
I think Tony Muskett's eligibility gone as of last night. I found myself wrestling with this, Mike, because you and I are well aware of the vibes around this program, and things just like are trending downwards, and it seems bad. And yet I look and I'm like, oh, they got a 5-7 record. But what I have to realize is that they were 4-1 through 5 games. And then your final 7 games here, you went 1-6. And not only did you go 1-6, your one win was by 5 at Pitt. You had one loss by 4 points at Louisville, or against Louisville. And then the other 5 losses were by multiple scores. Like, you're getting blown out week after week after week.
Yeah.
And this is year 3, I think, of Tony Elliott. And just there's nothing about finishing year 3 getting blown out 5 out of 7 games and looking at where the roster's going and watching your 2 quarterbacks are both basically gone at this point. And in all of this, there's nothing about this that feels like we are trending in the right direction. Like we're building towards making a bowl game, or we're building towards something next year. This feels like it's getting worse more than it's getting better. And in a weird way, again, for a year where I think you won more games than you did last year. But it is what it is. So that's my problem with this Virginia coaching staff. And we talked a little bit about it. I mean, there might be a little bit of a game theory thing here where you don't let Carla Williams fire Tony Elliott, but maybe you fire the AD in February or March, and then the new AD can hire Tony Bennett's replacement, and they can fire Tony Elliott, and they can hire Tony Elliott's replacement, right? Like, you've got multiple major hires to make in this athletic department right now, and I don't know that you can let Carla Williams do that unless you really, really believe in her, although she already clearly didn't get this football hire right, for whatever that's worth.
It's a similar conversation that's being had in the Virginia Tech fan base, not as dire of a situation because Virginia Tech doesn't have a national championship level basketball program on the men's side. But like Mike Young has been there 6 years. They gutted his NIL for the football program. Football program did exactly what it did last year. They won 6 regular season games. And now the men's basketball team is going to be one of the worst teams in the ACC this year because you just didn't give him any money. He's won 400 games in his career as a coach, and he's got no talent. So they're just going to...
There's 7 or 8 games in. They look awful.
They look awful. And, you know, they won the ACC title a few years ago, and he's a great coach. They don't have any talent. So it's a similar conversation. And, you know, is Carla going to hire another coach? The answer is no. Is Whit Babcock going to hire another football coach? The answer is no. So it's a very similar conversation that's being had with both teams that went up against each other in this game. But as far as UVA's conversation is concerned, like, yeah, Carla's contract is up at the end of May. I would be pretty surprised if she got an extension.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it gets a little worse before it gets better. I think Elliott's going to, fire some assistants. I think he needs to. You know, I thought that with Virginia Tech going into this game, and I'm not sure how many of them will be let go at this point. But I think UVA is like, you have to do it. The offense, it's apparent they're really bad. Like, they need to do it.
Yeah.
And, Kitchings has to go. That the offense has been really bad. You know, they can't keep a quarterback. They can't block anybody. They can't run it. I mean, this has been multiple years of this. They got to make a change there.
Yep. Yeah. Last thing I'll mention about the Virginia situation, then I'm good to move on. Carla Williams, she was in place when Bronco Mendenhall stepped down, retired, was pushed out.
Yeah.
Whatever happened there in that situation, like, I think whatever assessment we make of her situation as AD at Virginia and as it relates to Tony Elliott and potentially Tony Bennett's replacement and whatever, like, I'd like to think that's something that comes up on the performance review, is that you were part of the Bronco Mendenhall exit, and this is what that has turned into. And so just, we're something worth keeping in mind, right? Like, that you were part of that, and here's where we've gotten to. And I definitely would not say that this is an upgrade from where Bronco Mendenhall had this program 3 years ago.
Definitive downgrade. Definitive.
Hokies, 15 practices building towards 2025. We'll see.
We'll see. Pop might have a future in Blacksburg. We'll see what happens with drones. Might have a little something there. We'll see.
We'll see. Virginia Tech 37, Virginia 17.
Boston College 34, Pitt 23. Like I mentioned in the rapid recap, Pitt, we finished the drill. 5 straight losses after starting 7-0 and ranked.
Should we also mention that they might have gotten a little bit lucky to get the 7th win?
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. How do you characterize the season for Pittsburgh?
Dude, this is, again, you won 7 games, and that's about where Narduzzi's Pitt program has kind of sat. And it's hard to be disappointed with that. And yet, you watch the trajectory of the season, and you see, I'll say especially the 6 wins to start the year, and you beat West Virginia, you won the backyard brawl, you beat Cincinnati, you went 4-0 in out-of-conference play for the first time, and the offense looks awesome, like, some of the best it's looked under Narduzzi other than maybe the Kenny Pickett years, all this stuff. And then it just loss after loss after loss. And speaking of margin, you got blown out by Louisville. You got blown out by Boston College. And this is an 11-point game. you scored late to make it look
Name
closer than
only.
it was. Yeah.
Never, but you trailed the entire way.
You got
never
blown
led.
out by SMU. You had the home loss to that Virginia team that we're talking about potentially firing everybody around it. And you had the lead. You had the chance to pull off the most hilarious thing you could have done and just barely didn't do it against Clemson. That's probably the most redeeming performance you had in those 5 losses, honestly. To lose 5 in a row, to lose the game, to finish the season sucks. To get blown out in 3 of them, goodness, that is not a good look and does not feel like that's a positive trend going into the offseason.
Broke the out-of-conference curse, but at what cost? From Cabosis, that's in reference to Pittsburgh for the first time since joining the ACC. For those of you who have not heard the stat before, new here, whatever. This year is the first time that Pittsburgh has ever gone 4-0 in the non-con since being in the ACC. This is
ever.
Or ever. I thought it was just ACC. Ever?
No,
They've
including the Big East days. Now they used to only play like 11 total
Yeah.
games or whatever, but
Yeah.
they have never gone 4-0 out of conference ever in school history, and they did it this year, and now here we are. Anyways, continue.
You get what you get. Eli Holstein did not play in this game. It was Nate Yarnell for Pittsburgh. A lot of empty calorie stuff here. He threw for almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Boston College dominated this from the jump. They jumped out to an early lead. They held it. Pitt cut into it a little bit, and then BC hit the gas in the second half. And this is 34-23 in name only, but I think anybody who watched this game can acknowledge that Boston College was a better team throughout. BC has a little something with Grayson James, I think. He has looked good since taking over as a full-time starter. Clean game here from him. What can you say? Bill O'Brien. I mean, we talked about the ACC Coach of the Year bucket. He probably won't win it, but 7-5, shuffling quarterbacks, having guys banged up. Yeah, I mean,
should get a couple votes.
I mean, you should get a couple of votes, man. I mean, I think back to that Western Kentucky game back in late September when Castellanos didn't play and Grayson James had to kind of out of necessity, and they gutted their way to a win against a good Western Kentucky team. And it's just kind of been like that all year. They've had some bad losses, but they've clawed their way back, and 7-5. You'll take it year one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm impressed. I mean, Boston College, again, we mentioned in the preview, arrow up, arrow down, right? Like Boston College seems to be improving over the back half of the year. Pitt seems to be degrading, and I think you saw that in this game. As mentioned, again, we kind of talked about in the preview to the season, was Castellanos going to fit with what Bill O'Brien wanted to do on offense? And to some degree, I don't know that he ever did. To some degree, I think Castellanos got kind of nicked up early and was never really healthy, was always kind of a little bit hampered. And so I think that played in, but I think you're seeing some consistency week over week with who's playing in this Boston College offense, and you're seeing some development. And I mean, this is what you get. That's a pretty well-coached team. And you've got a couple of guys, Donovan Nezaraku, those kind of guys that are able to really kind of carry you, but the rest of them, it's a well-coached team, man. And they can hang in games. They can beat up teams that are not quite there for it. And I mean, I think that's really the way that maybe we look at Pitt is, they're 7-5. They're 3-5 in ACC play this year. And that's tough to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Narduzzi's buyout's still like $59 bajillion somehow. So I don't think they're buying him out of that, but
yeah, you know whose problem that is? Not ours.
Jim Hammett's? Oh, sorry.
Oh, Jim Hammett. Yeah. Yeah, Jim's going to have to pony up a little bit, I think.
That's right.
Pay that one out.
SMU knows about ponying up. Boston College 34, Pitt 23.
Louisville 41,
double
Kentucky
entendre.
14. That it was. Hand up. We were wrong. Hand up.
Completely wrong. Couldn't be happier about it. Holy hell. Louisville dominated this game
Yeah.
from start to finish, basically. Anytime Kentucky got like anything going on offense, Louisville was coming up with turnovers on downs.
Yeah.
I mean, Kentucky ends up scoring 14 points all in the second half of this game, but Louisville was far and away the better team in this game. They ran the hell out of the ball. Isaac Brown, 26 carries for 178, 2 scores on the ground. Duke Watson, 6 carries for 104 and 2 scores on the ground. Man, you talk about the game that Ohio State wanted to play against Michigan to kind of bully the team around and prove something, and they just kind of couldn't do it. Louisville did that in Lexington, just pushed around Kentucky all day, got what they wanted. Again, those two guys, 32 carries for the better part of 300 yards and 4 scores on the ground. Yeah. You take that every time. That's a hell of a performance from Louisville.
Yeah. No, it was. I mean, they just took it to a team that was really bad at stopping the run all year. They just ran all over them.
Yep.
So talk about inserting your brand of football. This is exactly what happened. Brock Vandagriff, Kentucky starting quarterback most of the year, he was benched for this game in favor of Cutter Boley, freshman, who went 6 of 15 for 48 yards, 2 interceptions.
Couldn't have been
that
worse.
ain't it. That ain't it, Chief. So they brought in Gavin Wimsatt, the Rutgers transfer. He threw 2 touchdowns. He was 4 of 9 for 125. 4 of 9, 125, 2 touchdowns.
All-timer stat line.
All-timer stat line. Not as good as Jamori Macklin, who had 3 for 121 and caught both of those touchdown passes from Ole Wimsatt. This is, those were the only bright spots for Kentucky in the blowout, and they happened like well after the game was already in hand.
Yeah.
Just really poor performance from Kentucky. We've come to expect that this year. Really bad 4-8 season, but for Louisville, you'll take it 8-4 rivalry win. You were the better team. Ran the ball. They just ran the hell out of it and got the win.
I was gonna say that I don't have any like really downsides to this with the way Louisville dominated this game basically from start to finish, and I will say I need to see it next year to believe that we can do this, more than like a one-off thing. There's a piece of me that wonders if Kentucky is quitting on Mark Stoops a little bit after he basically took the A&M job last year and then was denied. And I don't know how long he's sticking around here, but you know what? We'll see. So show me again next year, Louisville, but holy man, what a statement win this was in Lexington. Again, you outgained them by 160 yards, and even that doesn't really feel like it tells the story of the game. Like I just really, really impressed by Louisville.
Yeah. Yeah, really impressive. I just got a text. So West Virginia, Neil Brown, that he got fired this afternoon, and that's open. I thought this was a bit, but apparently it's not. Rich Rod is actually in play there.
No way. No way.
So
breaking news on the Basketball Conference podcast.
Hold on to your butts there. Keep an eye on that. He's a real candidate. Louisville 41, Kentucky 14. Yeah, how much fun would that be? Round 2 of Rich Rod at West Virginia. How much fun would that be? Oh my God, that would be so much fun. I don't know if it would work, but it would be funny.
Do it.
And potentially very fun. We'll see. He can still coach ball, buddy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shout out to Evan. I appreciate that.
Hell yeah. Florida 31, Florida State 11. This was on like a third screen during the night slate for me, so I had an eye on it. Florida State was playing competitively in the first half, then it got away from them.
Their defense will keep them in games
for a little while, anyway.
Yeah, they try. They try really hard.
Yeah, this was the crock potting of the century from Florida. They grinded Florida State to a pulp here. The Mike Norvell, the only thing I care about talking about here is the Mike Norvell, Billy Napier handshake and the Mike Norvell flag throw at the end of the game, which was pretty funny. They basically, all throughout college football, this weekend, there was the whole we're planting the flag at midfield, then we're going to start a fight. And the most notable one.
We've got to calm down with the flag planting fights after these rivalry games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. But all that to say, I mean, the most exciting one was Ohio State and their star pass rusher Jack Sawyer being all up in arms about.
There wasn't any pepper spray here in Tallahassee that I'm aware of. So.
Yeah, not this time. And Jack Sawyer being all up in arms about Michigan planting it at midfield. He's 0-4 in his career against Michigan. Very funny. But basically Norvell was talking really aggressively at Napier. How can you let your players do that? And you could see Napier. He's like, yeah, I mean, you're right. They shouldn't be doing that. And then Napier just like eviscerated his players in the post-game press conference saying, that's not what we're about. We're not going to do this. So, I mean, Napier is like, he gets a lot of flack, but he's, one of those guys who's very just, he seems kind of matter of fact. Like he's very intense, wants to win, but with the press, he's just kind of like good old Southern boy, And you could tell he kind of had that attitude in Norvell. Norvell was so mad. He was so mad. It's like that was 10-loss frustration coming out on Billy Napier. He's just like, hey, man, now you're the one on the hot seat.
Yeah. I mean, look, Mike, win some more games, and then you can, like, have room to be mad about it.
Yeah.
Nothing looks cool when you're the head coach of a 2-10 team. So just take it. Just take it, walk away, and find a way to get better next year. Maybe start by hiring Gus Malzahn as your offensive coordinator, which okay. All right. I mean, there are less experienced play callers you could hire for sure. I have no idea what the hell we're doing with this. It's honestly weirdly a little bit like Ryan Day hiring Chip Kelly as his offensive coordinator. Like, it's two guys that are pretty diametric opposite styles and play callers that are now going to work together, and maybe you find some synergy, something. I mean, I don't get this. That was a weird hire to me personally.
It's better than Alex Atkins, I think. But Alex Atkins wasn't calling the plays.
I would say he wasn't allowed to call plays anyway. So
I mean,
what? I don't know what we're doing here.
I also don't know how much of this is just like you swung and missed on the portal, and that's why you can't do the portal all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think Florida State will be this bad next year. It would be pretty funny if they were, but I don't think they'll be this bad next year.
It would be hilarious.
It would be pretty funny if they were. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems nearly impossible that they would be this bad, but stranger things have happened. Weird sport, Mike.
Yeah. Weird sport is right.
Yep. Scott is going to see this sometime tomorrow and realize that we went for over 2 hours, and he's probably going to have a stroke. So we should probably move on.
Awards.
Is there anything else we got?
No, we're good. Oh, well, Bowling Green.
Hey. Sad Falcon noises.
I feel bad for Scott because he had Bowling Green to win the MAC title at like plus 400 or whatever it was, and then Bowling Green lost this game, so they will not be playing for the MAC title.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks.
But the real winner here is me because we went over the win total a week ago. So tough one for Bowling Green.
True. Miami of Ohio 28, Bowling Green 12, and Bowling Green was kind of chasing that one the whole game and never really truly seemed like they had a chance to win that game. So, as it were.
Awards.
Oh, hang on.
Beauty.
Where are we at? Hang on. There we go. The Go ACC Moment of the Week award. I don't know if I have a lot of ideas that I saw. We could go to officiating on Friday night in Athens.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty bad. Yeah,
there's some moments. Who is your all's hashtag GoACCMOTW award nominees. We got a lot of people still in the chat. It is late.
It is late.
We got
Yeah.
people still with us.
It is late.
I mean, Mario Cristobal kicking the field goal. Under 4 minutes left.
That's the winner.
I mean,
That's the winner, man.
Go ACC to that.
That's the winner.
They never
Yeah.
got the ball back.
No, that's a great one. That's one of the best ones of the year, actually. That's the winner.
Shout out to Miami for that.
Yeah.
Go ACC. The Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award.
Goes to Georgia Tech trying to convert a 2-point conversion. Sorry, Joey.
I am dead inside.
Dead inside is the correct term. Yep.
I'll never come back from this.
A close second was Wake Forest trying to play prevent defense. That was also candidate.
Yeah. You almost got to overtime, Wake, and you did not. You did not. Go ACC to all of that.
We got some real quick in the chat. I know we've gone long enough, but we got some Go ACC candidates in the chat. Rangers King, our new friend. Dabo not playing contain. Spy on Sellers all game. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Almost like there's more than one way for South Carolina to beat you. I'm not sure that there is.
Yeah. He's about it.
Yeah. That's a good call. Yeah. Evan Sandage, the Miami penalty right before the field goal. Yeah. No better time for unsportsmanlike conduct than when you're trying to stage a comeback and you got goal to go and just take a swing at somebody. It'll be fine.
How about jumping off sides with your last stand on defense?
Mm-hmm.
That was good too.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that.
The Norvell flag toss. There you go.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one too, yeah.
The Kobe Bryant Memorial Volume Shooter of the Week Award.
Damon Claiborne, 20 carries for 67 yards.
Wake tried so hard.
Not good.
Yeah,
He's
not
a
great.
good one. I saw one other one. The problem is this week.
Cal had a hell of a time doing anything on offense.
Well, they did, and the candidates this week are from outside the ACC. Like Kentucky had some candidates. I mean, Jade Knott's a good one. 13 carries, 37 yards. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Will Secor. Damn it.
2 pointers for Kobe.
Georgia Tech 1 for 6 on 2-point tries. Yeah.
Kobe Bryant Memorial Long Twos Award. Yeah.
I'm dead inside, Mike. I'm dead inside.
Now Kobe would have ended the game before it got to 8 overtimes.
Yeah. Clemson throws an interception into field goal range with time left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes. To that we say,
Kobe.
Any unsanctioned awards here, Mike?
Kobe Bryant Memorial You Died Award goes to Purdue.
The
Shout out,
crossover
Emma.
event of the summer. Yeah.
Shout out Emma. Ryan Walters got fired, by the way. Not
he
a
did.
huge surprise. Their only win this year was against Indiana State, so cool.
Florida State might have been favored over Purdue on neutral field. Purdue was god awful,
Worst team in the P4 was Purdue.
really bad.
What else? Player of the week. We got a bunch of candidates.
We texted Friday night that Haynes
McCord.
King is probably, in a
Haynes King.
losing effort, a candidate here. That dude, unbelievable effort Friday night.
413 all-purpose, 5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The combo of Isaac Brown and Duke Watson for Louisville
Yes.
ran the hell out of the ball. Kyle McCord, everything that he did in the win for Syracuse.
Pop for the Hoaks.
Pop Watson just casually freshmaning his way to a 3-touchdown win over the in-state rival. Yeah. A lot of good individual performances here.
Hampton.
Yeah,
But
Marion Hampton.
we could say Marion Hampton pretty much every week the second half of the season.
In a losing effort, and yet 22 for 185 and a touchdown. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Team of the
Team
week.
of the week, Syracuse.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Honorable mention to Louisville getting off the schneid and just smoking your rival that way. NC State getting to bowl eligibility against their rival.
Yep.
On the road, underdog.
Yep.
All that. That's all I got, Mike. Anything else?
We did it for 2 hours. Thank you to everybody in the chat. We'll have an abbreviated close here, I think, because we spent 45 minutes on this podcast on 2 games. So that's, you get what you get.
This is the most active I can remember the chat on a Sunday night at this time. We are incredibly grateful for all the people that are still hanging around with us. This has been a really good crowd tonight. So thank you to the people who have been here at youtube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. Really appreciate you all joining us. Stay with us. We're going to come back and preview the ACC championship game. We've got SMU currently favored against Clemson in Charlotte here this upcoming Saturday night. Mike, inevitably, we'll probably be here Saturday night to recap that game. We've got a lot of other news around the conference to talk about. There's going to be some bowl game announcements and bowl game previews and bowl game recaps, and there's recruiting, like signing day stuff that's coming up, and there's
playoff reaction.
Somebody else might be fired between now and then. I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff, and we're going to keep you updated. So stay with us here, youtube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. We would really appreciate that. Hit the bell icon. You'll find out where we're going to go live. If your team didn't make a bowl game, we're going to be doing some postseason team postmortem recap situations, kind of just talk about the season that was, where we're going from here.
With beat writers.
With beat writers, people that know more than we do. We got a lot of content coming your way. So just because the regular season is over, just please stick with us. We've got a lot more as we cover the entire conference going into the offseason, Mike.
Actual offseason content this year, and we've discussed it. We've got a game plan. We're going to actually execute off-season content in a strong manner this year. Please subscribe. We have a lot of momentum, so we need you all subscribing. Rangers King, you stuck with us for a live show tonight. We complimented SMU. Subscribe.
You owe us.
Subscribe. You owe us one. Owe us a sub. Every Saturday night, baby.
Yep. We'll be here. Or Sunday night, or, whatever.
Or, early Monday morning also.
That's right. Mike, let's get it here. We're on iTunes. We're on wherever you go. You find your podcasts on audio. Send us an email. You know the address. Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. You good?
Good.
We'll come back and preview the ACC championship game and talk North Carolina job and all sorts of other news in the ACC.
Either Tuesday night or Thursday night. Wife's birthday is Wednesday.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Make it happen.
All right. Beautiful.
Talk to y'all then. For Mr. Mike McDaniel, I'm Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will talk to you again very, very soon. Enjoy the regular season. Thank you all for joining us. Until next time, go ACC.